Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture.
And I'm the inspirational Andy Murray from What Culture. And remember, friends don't let friends watch Tama Tonga matches.
Coming up, my best friend's called Kevin, but I get to call him Kev. And I've got an update on why we might be saying bye-bye to Rusev.
I like swimming in swimming pools, and I'm going to tell you about some title matches for Extreme Rules.
I present the news. Sometimes people in the comments say I'm a bit of a prat, but I've got more of an update on Bray Wyatt.
This WWE superstar likes to get in a rage, and he almost got a new theme song from Killswitch Engage.
Oh, nice. This is the news.
Anyway, we are going to kick things off with something I don't really know how to approach. This is potentially problematic. There's that word for the comment section. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. They had an interesting night on last night's SmackDown. We saw the continuation of the ongoing feud with Ember Moon.
Oh, good.
As Sonya beat Ember in something like 1 minute 20. It was a typical WWE distraction finish, made Ember look like a bit of a goof, but that's kind of par for the course. Anyway, afterwards, the camera kind of lingered on Mandy and Sonya embracing in the ring. They were very happy, lots of smiles, they held each other close. As they came back together, Sonya kind of like ran her hand through Mandy's hair. This has led to all kinds of crazy speculation all across the internet. We kind of have to cover it because it's a story today, suggesting, with almost nothing to go on aside from this, that WWE might be running some kind of romance angle between the two. Now, before we dive into this, I'll remind you all that it's Pride Month, of course.
Yes.
Sonya Deville is the first openly gay female superstar in WWE history, and her nickname is the Pride Fighter. So, for a company of WWE's lack of subtlety to do this, with all those three things in mind, if true, is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you'd think, like you mentioned with all those things there, that if they were going to do this sort of storyline, especially in Pride Month, any other company you might think, oh, that could be quite good, that could be quite progressive.
Sure.
But we've seen when they remember they did this sort of hinted at it with Sasha Banks and Bayley for one week and then just scrapped the whole thing. I'm slightly concerned about what's happening with this.
Yeah, it is concerning. It's just purely because of it's WWE and the way they handle things. They do not handle serious issues or potentially sensitive issues very well. They just come down upon them, like a ton of bricks, and they write them in the most ham-fisted ways possible. Look, I hope this segment isn't leading to that, obviously. I think Sonya Deville is particularly promising between the ropes. I think she's very good. Mandy Rose as well. They're two of the most promising women in the division. They don't need to be hampered by some kind of storyline of this nature. Now, I mean, I'd love to be surprised and for WWE to come out with something that isn't inherently rotten and problematic, because they aren't very good at that. But I don't really see it happening. I think Sonya's a very positive role model. I love the Pride Fighter nickname purely because it'll annoy a lot of silly dopes who say, don't politicize wrestling. Love isn't political, you dummies. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not particularly enthused by this.
It does seem it was a very deliberate move to linger on the two of them in the ring, and the way they sort of interact with each other in a very different way to the way they sort of have been. And I know what you're thinking, we're sort of making something out of nothing here, but all the wrestling sites on the internet are basically speculating and reporting on this today, that it could well be the direction they're going. And yeah, on the one hand, I think it could be great and really progressive for WWE. On the other hand, as we mentioned, the track record, any sort of female-on-female interaction, the mind springs to Mickie James and Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
That was actually quite a clever storyline, but the way they did it, certainly if you update that to 2019, yeah, again, could be quite problematic.
It's tough. And before we kind of close on this story, a lot of people are going to look at this and go, oh, Andy and Adam said this, and that means they definitely think this. It's like, no, it's our job to come here and talk to you guys about what's going on across the wrestling world. This is a big story today. We've just got to comment on it. We've written our thoughts.
Fingers crossed if they do it, they do it, knock it out of the park, because Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are incredibly talented. And like you say, at a time like this, in a month like this, it could be incredibly beneficial for everyone. But we won't hold our breath on that.
Progressive, not problematic. Ooh, the comments are going to love that.
Right, let's move on to another story about a member of the roster in WWE who isn't happy. I know that doesn't narrow it down. It's Rusev I'm talking about this time. Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio has reported that his contract is set to expire in the near future, and he's been unhappy for a long time with the WWE. We've all seen his tweets, whether it be criticising the company, complaining about opportunities, or even criticising other wrestlers for getting pushed ahead of him.
It's like every month with this guy, isn't it?
And the reason why he's not on TV now is literally due to the fact of how disillusioned he is and how he's being used in WWE. So the rumour is that Rusev could be heading out the door with AEW potentially waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Rusev stuff, it comes up so often that it's kind of easy to roll your eyes and be cynical about it, but if his contract truly is running out, like this coincides nicely with the time he's currently taking off from television. It all really does add up. It's easy to understand as well why he'd be upset with how things have been going, because him and Shinsuke Nakamura have been lost in the shuffle this year. They had a terrible tag team origin story in which you injured my wife, now we're friends. It was nonsense. They wrestled for the titles at WrestleMania, but they were kind of spot fillers, and they haven't really done anything since. On SmackDown this week, we saw Nakamura go down his own path with Finn Balor, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, man, I can totally see him walking out. And I think he'd be a good player for AEW if they were interested.
He could be an absolute monster for them, I think. You know, he's generally accepted that following his loss to John Cena at WrestleMania, he's kind of just been completely misused, underutilized talent. He is one of, in my opinion, the biggest missed opportunities for WWE in recent memory.
I don't know how they didn't capitalize on Rusev Day.
That Rusev Day, like you say, it's not like he just sort of lost his undefeated streak and then they sort of didn't really know what to do with him. He's constantly reinventing. He's an incredible character. He's great on the microphone as well, and yet he's just knocking about now.
Yeah, he's just kind of.
And he's not the only one who wants to leave, actually, is he?
Akira Tozawa. Last night, after 205 Live went off the air, the Japanese star tweeted out the word "done," all caps. He then promptly deleted it, of course, because that's what you do. The interesting thing about this is that he took the pin at Stomping Grounds on Sunday. He took a pin last night, which I'm about to talk about in my next story, to Tony Nese. And this is almost 3 years to the date since he signed with WWE. So, one would suggest, looking at these, putting the pieces together, that perhaps his contract is expired and he's off. He's out of there.
That would seem to make sense. I mean, he's incredibly talented. He's obviously former cruiserweight champion, former member of Titus Worldwide, more importantly than that. He's had an incredible career in WWE for over those 3 years. But yeah, you seem to suggest that they haven't really got a lot else for him now, and the way they're utilising him would seem that he's heading out the door, and he seems to be 2 multiplied by 10 plus 1, Tozawa, done.
Very good. If he is done, I would expect him to perhaps head back to Dragon Gate. He was a big deal there. That's where he rose up. Similar situation to Neville. The company was really good for him. He was really good for the company. He'd be a big, big asset to that promotion in particular. Yeah, I could see him going back.
The only thing we need to say about this.
Anyway, we're going to move on to Extreme Rules. Speaking of Akira Tozawa, he lost that number 1 contenders match to Tony Nese last night. That resulted in the creation of the next Cruiserweight title match. It will be Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak. A match that has happened several times before, is always fantastic. I'm loving the new Drew Gulak. Tony Nese has had a really great 2019 as well, proving me wrong after I called him unspectacular in a video earlier this year, so I look like a dumbass, and I'm fine with that. Love being proved wrong. We also have another couple of title matches. So, confirmed on last night's SmackDown, we have Kofi Kingston versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe attacked Kofi on the previous night's Raw. Fortunately, Dolph Ziggler won't be involved in that.
That's what I was waiting
because
for.
he lost the main event. If he won that main event, he would have been added to the match. It's not happening. Dolph is out of here. Should have been me. Piss off, mate. And finally, we have a SmackDown Women's title. Another rematch. Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. This came about when Nikki Cross beat Bayley clean on SmackDown to earn her friend another opportunity. So, interesting matches, interesting developments. Out of all of this, what sticks out the most to me, aside from the Dolph thing, is just the Nikki Cross-Alexa Bliss relationship on screen. It's great.
Yeah, they're doing phenomenally well. We all can see where this is heading, I think, anyway, unless Alexa Bliss wins the title. I sense that we're hopefully leading to a thing we've been crying out for a long time, a feud between two women that does not centre around a belt.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy of those two together on screen really works well. Not only do we get a further build from the first match, there's a legitimate reason why you want to see it again. It looked like Alexa Bliss was about to win at Stomping Grounds before Nikki got involved after Bayley had taken her out anyway, blah, blah, blah. Not only do we get that, but more importantly than anything for me, Bayley and Alexa Bliss in some sort of Extreme Rules match get to lay that ghost to bed from that god-awful kendo stick match.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait.
And I love all three of those matches. I'm really, really, really excited. I think Joe versus Kofi Kingston has banger written all over it. Like you said, Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak's going to be great. And yeah, Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. Some good stuff from WWE there.
Absolutely.
More updates on Bray Wyatt and his Firefly Funhouse to tell you about. No official segment this week, but just like on Monday Night Raw, where we saw Mercy the Buzzard and, is it Abby the Witch?
Abby the Witch.
Last night on SmackDown, eagle-eyed viewers would have spotted Huskus the Pig in the background, where whilst Daniel Bryan and Rowan were on screen, and Ramblin' Rabbit making an appearance during the segment with Carmella, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville. So they're slowly bleeding into TV.
Yeah, just what we said yesterday, basically, isn't it? It's really good stuff. Really good, subtle, not beating you over the head with his stuff. I love that they're doing this. I love that they're dropping these little hints. Like, I didn't even notice Ramblin' Bloody Rabbit there. And I watch this show with a view to picking it apart in an ups and downs column every week very closely. Yeah, this is just, it's great. I love it. It reminds me almost of the way they debuted Elias a few years ago, where they just had him kind of walking around in the background. Like, he'd be walking through a row of crowds and they wouldn't acknowledge it. And then after a couple of weeks, Corey Graves was like, oh, God, it's that guy. Love it. Hopefully, this means that the debut or the re-debut for Bray is going to be tremendous as well.
Please don't screw this up.
Please don't screw this up. Anyway, we're going to pivot over to Killswitch Engage, metal band, new metal. They're not new metal, I'm an idiot. Metalcore, new wave of American heavy metal, whatever, melodic death metal, whatever you want to call them, girly choruses, beefy riffs. That's what they do. Of course, in the past they've done This Fire Burns for CM Punk. Tremendous entrance song. It was eventually replaced by Cult of Personality. Huge wrestling fans, especially bass player Mike D'Antonio, who revealed on a podcast appearance, John's Untitled podcast it's called, that they've been working on a potential wrestling theme for an unnamed wrestler. I've got a quote from that. He said, "We're not actually even supposed to talk about it, but we have 2 wrestling theme songs in the works right now. One song, I believe, is finished." Now, the current talk is that the song he is talking about is the new single they released just the other day. It's going to be the opening track on the new album. It is called Unleashed. And this song features lyrics like "Unleashing the wild within, blood on your hands, the madness that dwells inside." So thinking about this, after a conversation with Mr. Simon Gallagher here at WhatCulture.com, who wrote up a wonderful article on this for our website that you should check out, got us thinking, who do you reckon this was for? Because the first name that comes to mind for me is talking about someone coming back. It's talking about unleashing something they have inside them. Finn Balor came back in 2017 after his Universal title injury. I don't know if I'd ever consider replacing the awesome entrance theme that Finn already has, but I think it could be a good fit.
Yeah, I think there's a whole host of people that in theory it could relate to. But yeah, Finn Balor would be an obvious one. What was the bit about blood on your hands? I instantly thought of Bray Wyatt for a split second.
Yeah.
So who knows?
It would have fit Bray. This was, of course, the year when Bray and Randy Orton had that really... let's move on. That feud was... I still have nightmares.
Should we move on to Twitter questions?
Yeah, please.
Let's move on to your Twitter questions. Don't forget you can send them to us at WhatCultureWWE. Start off with a question from Richard McLaren even, who says, will The Undertaker's match at Extreme Rules be a one and done, or do you think it leads to something like Undertaker versus Drew at SummerSlam?
Oh, I think it might lead to Undertaker versus Shane at the next Saudi Arabian show. No, I don't think it'll be one and done. I think he will... He's going to keep showing up for these things, isn't he? Like, he looked at Super Showdown like he was very much done, and the look on his face was like, oh my God, I'm way too old for this. But he keeps showing up. I don't think we will see The Undertaker retire until he finally concretely says, this is my last match.
I sort of now see that look at the end of Super Showdown as he wants to make amends for that match. And I feel like that's, alongside the part of the fact that their viewership and attendance is plummeting for the WWE, so it makes sense that they want to bring a big name back. Yeah, I think he's tempted back for this random but weirdly great Extreme Rules match that we've got coming up alongside him and Roman Reigns versus Drew and Shane. And I think, yes, one way or another, it'll lead to him versus Drew or him versus Shane or maybe even him versus Roman. I don't really see that happening, but who knows. Right, let's move on to biggest 24/7's question on Twitter. He says, over time, the US and IC title have come in and out of relevance. Is it worth WWE bringing in a stipulation whereby the holders face each other at the Royal Rumble to determine the other world/universal title contender for WrestleMania?
I don't. What are the logistics of that? So, do the secondary titles just no longer exist?
I think basically it's sort of a qualifier, so you just get the other person after the Royal Rumble winner has selected someone to face at Mania. It's a unique idea.
It's a unique idea, but I think that would further devalue the Universal and the United States and IC titles, because suddenly the champion who holds one of those belts is now no longer prioritizing that belt, they're prioritizing going after the big belt, and so that falls even further out of the spotlight. So it's an outside the box idea. I don't necessarily think it's bad or anything. I'm just not sure it would have the desired impact for the mid-card belts.
Final question today comes from El Grande on Twitter, who says, I have a question for you and I hope you answer back. Do you think Bray Wyatt will be feuding with Alistair Black? Hashtag the door is open. Hashtag let me in.
Oh, that's a nice piece of booking mathematics. I think that'd be interesting. They're both obviously two very well-defined characters. It'd be interesting to see Bray's new weird fiend funhouse thing colliding with Alistair Black's brooding, sitting in a dark room, getting angry at himself. Although the word I heard earlier was maybe something we're about to cover in another news video, so I'll leave that. But no, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. The difficulty I have, as much as those two things do mesh together really well, is you can't really have a loser in that match.
Yeah.
Like, they both sort of have to win in their first match back, or first match on the main roster for us.
We'll just go to like a DQ. You know,
yeah.
7 pay-per-views.
Oh, good. Right, let's move on to today's and finally. And Andy Murray, you don't know about this, but it centres around a man who's not been having a great week on Twitter. Seth Rollins.
Ah, Seth the Chef.
Yeah. How would you rate his week on Twitter out of 10?
1. 1.5.
He claimed WWE was like the best place ever ahead of Stomping Grounds and doubled down on the night before that god-awful main event. And he subsequently got into a Twitter feud, as reported yesterday, with Will Ospreay. Yeah. Well, it's going from bad to worse because Daniel Bryan, everyone's favourite, apparently liked a tweet yesterday from someone tweeting all about the wrestlers who are better than Seth Rollins. The list is quite long as well, as you can see there.
Okada, Naito, Tanahashi, Ibushi, Bryan, Omega, Takahashi, Ishii, Takagi, Kaito Kiyomiya, Marufuji, Nakajima, Sugera, Sabre Jr. There's not a single one on that list that I disagree with. They're all better than Seth Rollins.
So yeah, best wrestler in the world after all of them.
Maybe Kiyomiya. He's young. The Noah title run hasn't quite worked out in a business and in ring sense.
In fact, you're scraping around for someone who's just a bit worse than Seth Rollins.
Who's Seth Rollins better than? I mean, pretty much everyone in WWE apart from AJ Styles and Cesaro, but
and Bryan.
And Bryan.
And Asuka.
And Rowan.
Anyway, maybe just lay off Twitter for a while, Seth, especially after that interview about Jon Moxley. Okay, let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And in fact, you can send us Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE. Well, actually, there you can follow both of us. You can follow him at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for
You can follow me at Adam Wilburn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. And we'll be back later on because guess what? Today is a Bubble News Day. We'll be back later on with loads more groundbreaking stories.
Stay tuned as Adam Cleary exposes the worst wrestler in the world, Seth Rollins, later on.
Well, thanks, Andy Murray. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
He's bottom 5, isn't he, Seth?